there's no way back. Welcome to Gains and Lore. Listen until the end, if you dare.
I always thought I was being smart. Since I was a kid, my grandfather would tell me, "He who saves always has." I grew up with that in my head. I didn't trust banks, much less investments. My logic was simple. If the money is in my hand, no one can take it. So I started accumulating it. Notes wrapped in rubber bands, hidden in small boxes, inside plastic bags, all under the mattress. It was even comforting. Opening the box and seeing those piles of notes gave me a sense of power, of security. I believed I was building my future, one brick at a time. But then came the first pang of strangeness. One day I went to buy bread. Before, a 10-note would fill a bag. That day, the baker looked at me as if I had handed him a piece of scrap paper. "You need more," he said curtly. I gave a nervous laugh, but I went home with the bag almost empty. That made me uneasy. That same week, I woke up in the middle of the night to a noise coming from a box. It was like someone was chewing slowly, a wet, disgusting sound. I opened it quickly, and of course, there was no one there. But I swear the notes were thinner, as if they had lost weight. The next night, the box moved on its own. I saw it with my own eyes, a slight pulsing, as if it were breathing. The smell in the room also began to change, sometimes burnt paper, sometimes something sour like meat spoiling. I was starting to understand. The money wasn't safe. Something was feeding on it. It didn't take long for things to get out of control. I couldn't sleep properly anymore. Whenever I closed my eyes, I felt like there was someone standing in the dark at the edge of the bed, a tall, overly thin shadow, hunched over as if it were hungry. And in the silence of the night, that chewing sound would come. Once, I mustered the courage. I turned on the light, went to the box, and opened it. The notes were still there, but they were damp, some stuck together, as if someone had slobbered on them. Others a little crumbled, as if they had aged decades in a matter of days. It didn't make sense, but with every purchase, the feeling only got worse. The bread was more expensive. The meat, well, that's another story. It was as if the whole world was being corroded along with my savings. I was being robbed, but not by thieves. It was something invisible, something I couldn't stop. On one suffocating morning, I woke up with the box open. I was sure I had closed it, and right there, on top of the notes, I saw marks, impressions of long fingers, as if skeletal hands had rummaged through my money. The worst part was hearing the whisper, a thin, almost breathless voice that said,
"Say more. I need more."
The presence was feeding itself, and the more I saved, the stronger it seemed to get. One day, I decided to face it. I placed all my savings on the bed. Piles of notes, which once made me proud, now had a sick appearance. The color was faded, the smell unbearable. They looked like dead leaves. That's when I felt the room temperature plummet. The light flickered, and it appeared. The shadow that had been watching me for days now materialized before me. Tall, thin, with an elongated face, deep, dull eyes. Its enormous mouth opened into a black hole that dripped dark saliva. It approached slowly, hunched like a starving beggar. It looked at the piles of notes and smiled. I will never forget it. The sound it made while chewing the money was more real than any nightmare, as if it were grinding bones. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to push, but my body wouldn't respond. I could only watch as it swallowed the fruit of years of sacrifice. Each devoured note left a larger hole in my chest. When the creature was finished, it leaned over me and whispered in my ear with the coldest voice I have ever heard.
"Still money is fresh food."
It was at that moment that I understood. I wasn't saving anything. I was feeding that thing. After that night, I was never the same. I'd go out to buy the basics, and I'd realize how much more expensive everything was. The same notes that once made me feel rich now barely served to fill a small bag. It was as if the whole world was rotting along with my money. I talked to an acquaintance who understood finances. I didn't tell him about the creature, of course, or they would call me crazy. But he told me something that hit me like a punch to the stomach. If you leave money sitting, inflation corrodes it. It's like rust. It's like mold. You can't see it, but it consumes everything until there's nothing left. At that moment, it all made sense. The entity I saw was inflation itself. Invisible, hungry, always present. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, or how much you save. If you don't put the money to work, it comes. It always comes. I started to notice everything. The newspaper talking about rising prices. My neighbor complaining that gas no longer fit into budget. My uncle crying because his retirement barely covered his medicine. It was the same thing. The same hunger. Everyone being devoured without realizing it. And me? I had seen its face. I knew what was really happening. Today I tell this story as a warning. Because if you think you're safe just because you have a drawer full of money, you're wrong. You're not saving anything. You're feeding it. Every note that sits still is a piece of fresh meat served on a platter. The only way to protect yourself is to put your money to work. Invest. Make it yield more than it can eat. Only then can you escape the invisible hunger. Because inflation never sleeps. It never rests. It's everywhere waiting. You don't see it, but it's beside you right now, scraping its bones on the floor, ready to feast on every penny you leave idle. And when you open the drawer and realize that what seemed like a fortune now buys less than half of what it used to, you'll remember me. I saw the creature. I felt its breath on my ear. And I can guarantee, nothing is more terrifying than realizing your money was devoured alive, and you yourself fed it.
Reaching the end means you've seen more than most, but don't leave just yet. The most valuable part is coming now. Watch the credits to uncover today's lesson. Stay, like, and subscribe, because this is where everything connects. And so, the tale becomes a lesson. Now, let's learn how to break the curse.
A final entry. Inflation. Let's sit down for a moment. Forget the charts, the formulas, and the complicated terms you see on TV. The economy, at its core, comes down to our daily lives. Imagine the following scene. You or your grandmother goes to the supermarket with a 100 note in their wallet. With that money, you can fill a cart with bread, milk, rice, beans, and meat. All good. Now, imagine you go back to the same supermarket a year later with the same 100 note. But this time, you can buy fewer items. The bread is more expensive, so is the milk, and you have to leave the meat on the shelf because your money is no longer enough. This is inflation. Inflation is when the prices of the things we buy every day, like food, rent, transportation, and medicine, increase in a general way. What causes this? It's almost as if everyone's money has become a little weaker. This can happen for two main reasons, which I'll explain in a simple way. Too many people wanting to buy the same product. Imagine that in a small town, the only bakery makes 100 loaves of bread a day. Suddenly, everyone in this town gets a salary increase. Now, everyone wants to buy bread. The demand is enormous, but the production remains the same. What does the bakery owner do? He raises the price of the bread. This happens on a large scale. If there's too much money circulating and products are limited, prices go up. The cost to produce has risen. Going back to the bakery, what if the price of flour, yeast, and the electricity he uses to bake the bread goes up? To avoid a loss, he has to pass on that increase to the final price of the bread. When this happens in many sectors of the economy, the price of almost everything goes up. And what's the big lesson? The big lesson of inflation is that your money is worth less over time. The same 100 notes that once filled a cart now barely buy half of it. Inflation is a phenomenon that affects your purchasing power. It's like an invisible monster that, little by little, corrodes the value of your savings and your salary. The fight against it is the reason we need to be smart and plan our finances. And that's the beauty of our conversation. Understanding these concepts sets us free. When you understand the why of things, you can protect yourself